Oh.
It's gonna be a long day. Guys, how many do we have left? Are we almost done yet?
Are we there yet? Oh.
All
Okay.
right.
Are we ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Hi there. You're listening to the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. We're Alana, Kyle, and Tira, friends who have a heart for intimacy and long to uncover God's truth and design for sexual freedom within marriage. If you enjoy listening to our episodes or like our content over on Instagram, would you consider leaving a review or subscribing? It really helps. Welcome here. All right, we are back for another episode of the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. My name is Alana, and I'm joined by Kyle and Tira. And a special welcome to the patrons who are tuned in. Thanks for being patrons, for supporting us and the show. And I hit up the chat often with the patrons. I'm like, hey, this is going on. Can you pray for this? And whatever. They just get to know the little things that are going on behind the scenes with us, which is, it's nice to have them and their support. They also get hump day positions. They get to vote on Patrons Choice episodes and all that good stuff. So if you would also like to become a patron or even just support the show, if you appreciate it, head over to patreon.com/Kingdom Sexuality. The verse I chose for today is Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. First Thessalonians, sorry. Thessalonians. Okay. So today we are talking about sex and talking about it with friends. So we've done an episode on this before, but we just felt like, why not bring it up again, chat about it some more. Last time we did this episode, I think it was Rusty and I who did it.
Yeah, I wasn't here for sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't on this one either.
Yeah.
You got to be a real OG to remember the original episode of this one.
Yeah. So if you have tuned into the old one, when I post the new episode post, like wave or something in the comments so I know that you listened to the old one. So have you ever wanted to talk to a friend about your sex life, but you didn't know how to do it well, or if it was like appropriate to bring it up? Today, we're going to talk about it and how to talk about sex with friends in a way that builds each other up and also honors God. Because there's a lot of questions around this. How to do this well.
Yeah.
Is this healthy? How do you do this healthy? What do you talk about? What do you exclude? So we're going to cover that all today.
Just three friends talking about sex with friends.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No kidding.
Nice.
So why does this matter? Why does it matter if you talk about sex with your friends or not? Firstly, I think silence and shame grow in isolation. We've talked about this before. And God designed us for community and connection, not secrecy. So yes, there are some things that can happen in your sex life that you don't tell people about. But my hope would be that you're still talking to God about those things, and praying about if there is a safe person that you need to be letting in on something, if it's like a big thing, right? And Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I don't think we should discredit the fact that there could be someone out there who could have also gone through what you're going through and would have something really insightful and helpful to say, or to even like, maybe it's correcting you and challenging you and your thoughts on something around sex. Oh, important. Sharing our journeys, including our intimate lives, can help normalize just healthy sexuality in general and foster growth and connection with your friends. And but there's also cautions and dangers when it comes to this, just with like gossiping, sharing too much, and there being comparison.
Isn't this kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, like, isn't this topic kind of how this podcast started? Right?
Yeah.
Give like a little quick overview of that.
Okay. Quick overview. I'm great at those. Just always making fun of me for when I'm telling stories, because I tell all the really unimportant details in a story. I'm one of those people. As everyone is like, yeah, Alana, we all know this. Back when this started, we were chatting with friends. We were at a restaurant visiting, and sex was coming up. And one of my friends was talking about how they were exploring multiple orgasms and whatever. And I don't know how the actual topic of sex came up. I wish I could remember how it segued into that, just to guide you into that part of this journey. But I remember thinking at the time, if she can have more than one, I should be able to have one. And then that got my like exploring about just sex in general and pleasure in general and how that worked. And I started bringing it up with other friends groups as well. And lots of my friends were like, "Oh, I'm so glad you were talking about this," or "You're so glad you brought this up because I've been wondering this too," or "We've been through a dry season too, and no one really talks about this, but I've always wanted to, and it's just kind of weird in the church. You don't know how to approach it well." Yeah, and that is kind of what has been the wind in the sails to this, and guiding couples to navigate it well.
That's just such a good story to frame this episode in, because just think about all the things that Alana just said were the benefits of talking about it with a friend, like things she never would have known, things other people never would have known, things that people wanted other people to talk about. Like this, there's so many positives that come out of this.
Like literally this podcast and platform wouldn't exist if Alana didn't talk about sex with her friends.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow. Episode done. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Come next week. We'll talk about something else. But no, has this something that's always come easy for you guys? Have you always, it's just something that you've done in your friends groups?
Yeah, it's been easy for me and easier because now we talk about it as like a part-time job or a full-time job for some of us, I guess. But I think that's the hard part for me, to remember that I'm the weird one in this, right? Like I'm the one who's overly comfortable talking about this because of what we do here. And I have to slow down sometimes when talking about it with other groups of friends, or if it comes up in a community group. So I have kind of taken the opposite approach, where I almost won't bring it up unless it's someone else brings it up, because I don't want to be like, oh, here's Kyle talking about sex again. Like, so I'm everyone knows I'm open to talk about it, but I will wait for you to come to me about it or bring it up in the conversation first before I chime in.
Yeah. I know my husband bugs me about that too. He's like, babe, not everybody talks about this all the time. Like that was, you came across way too strong in that. Like, just be a little gentle in your words. Not that it's bad, but like, yeah, we're just so used to talking about it. It's not a big deal. And I forget what I was going to say after that.
Tira's introduction is, hey, nice to meet you. How many orgasms do you have each time?
Well, it was fun this past weekend. I spoke at my my church's women's conference, and even in that, like, I was giving a talk on menstrual cycle and how it and hormones and stuff and how it affects our sex life, and I was going, and my presentation had like what sex positions and stuff to do in each phase, and as I was prepping it, I was like, okay, is this a normal thing, or is this gonna like fully scare everybody? So I toned it down quite a bit, and like, oh yeah, I gotta remember this is like regular people stuff. But in giving that presentation though, I had so many women talk to me after and be like, oh, it was so good to hear somebody talk about this, and you know, their sex life changed because of what they heard in that talk. Like, if we aren't comfortable talking about this awesome thing that God has made and given us, like, it just becomes this dark thing in the closet. Like that's not what he intended it, nor did he intend it for us to, you know, shout it from the mountaintops about what exactly gets you going. But, you know, I think it is it should be something that, especially if you're having problems or not feeling confident, or you just have that inkling of like, oh, I wish I had somebody to talk to about this. Like, definitely find somebody to talk to about it. And the fact that you're even listening to this podcast shows that you do have some interest in hearing, right? And so that's our goal, is to help get you guys talking about this with your friends in a healthy way.
And that's part of the reason that we have the Facebook group, is we want to create a healthy space for people to talk about this with people that are like them, right? We almost never chime in that group. It's all you guys generating everything, all of the wisdom, all of the encouragement, all of the suggestions, and all the questions. And all we're there to do is provide a space for you guys to have these conversations and the opportunity for these conversations. Now, we'd love for you guys to be able to have these conversations in your real life, not with strangers anonymously on the internet. But I think the Facebook group is a super healthy place for people to start and for people to be, because some people don't have people. So yeah, we'd love for you to have your people, but like the Facebook group is there to help you. And we are so like honored that you guys would use it and share it and grow it to over 10,000 people.
That's crazy.
I knew that the Facebook group would be good when I started it because I saw another one that was kind of like it and I was like, I think we can do this better. And I think we have done it better. But I did not ever think it was going to get to like 10,000 people and however many posts daily. Like, it's just incredible.
Yeah, you do a great job keeping track of everybody there.
Thanks.
That's good. Okay, so let's chime into this, like the healthy versus the unhealthy conversations around sex, because I feel like it can be helpful to have boundaries when it comes to this, and knowing how to do it well, and know, oh, maybe when I said that was crossing a boundary, or oh, maybe that was too far. So kind of gives you a mirror to figure out where you need to be. So some healthy things. Vulnerably sharing with trusted friends who love Jesus. Healthy.
This is a good one, I think, because the love Jesus part. Like, you are going to get very different answers from your friends who don't love Jesus. So I think it's okay in some scenarios to have the conversation with them, but just be very wary of whatever they share with you, because it's going to be wildly different than the friends who love Jesus. Like, there is an example recently in my life, a scenario came up, and I asked a couple of I work with all girls. So I asked a couple of the girls at work, like, hey, how would you guys feel about this in your sex life or in your life? And they were like, had such a wildly different answer than the Christian people that I talked to. And for me, it was just the perfect example of the dichotomy between how Christians approach sex and how the world approaches sex. And it was just super eye-opening for me.
You were totally frozen for a solid chunk of that. So we're just...
Well, hopefully it all went through.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But if you see us, it's like...
It's like me and Alana trying not to giggle because it's like, your answer...
Does one you want to take the next one? We can just rotate through some of these.
Sure. You can share your testimonies of growth and encouragement. Again, like going back to Alana's story, that's kind of how this all started. Someone else shared what they were going through. And now Alana has this beautiful testimony of what she's been through to help so many of you guys who have very similar stories to her. And I've been able to share my testimony and help guys who have been through pornography and how they approach it in marriage. And Tira's been able to use hers through infertility and all this stuff. Like, your testimony is way more powerful than you think it is, no matter how boring you think it is. Yes, right? Yeah, it can impact anyone. God can use it for his glory any way that he wants, and he will.
Yeah. Yeah. Another great thing is asking your friends for prayer or support or, wisdom, advice, all of that stuff. But a big one is for prayer. Like, even if that's the first step that you do, and just go, I'm really struggling in my intimate life. You don't even have to use the word sex. If that's the first step, can you just be praying for that for me? Like that can be literally your first step, where you don't have to share actually any details or even say the word sex. Just ask for prayer. That's a good first step forward.
And celebrating victories.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have asked for prayer for stuff, it's like to be able to kind of follow up later on, or actually this reminds me of so I had this, I think, was before the podcast. Yeah, it was definitely before the podcast. And we had recently moved. Theo was just little, and I had a friend. Oh, I was telling her, I was like, oh yeah, I feel like Jeff and I have been really disconnected lately. Like, we just, it's just been a really dry season all around. I was like, oh, just no desire for sex or whatever. And she's like, but why not? Like, sex is so fun. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that with your husband? Like, it totally took me off guard, because I was like, I don't know if people weren't talking about it like that to me. Like, I was like, oh, this is supposed to be a fun thing that I enjoy and look forward to. And it's, again, just kind of just shifted, like, and it shook me out of that, like, oh, kind of pity party. You're like, oh yeah, it's just because of this and this and this. It was like, oh, whoa, you're right. Like, and so anyways, just an encouragement to be talking about it, because maybe someone else has something to say that will really impact where you are in your sex life right now. And then going to the unhealthy. Some unhealthy things when it comes to talking about sex with friends would be complaining about your spouse.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest one I would.
100%.
Because that one is real easy to do.
Yes. Yes. Bragging or boasting, getting into too much detail, which again will vary from couple to couple, person to person. Like, but there are some things that it could just be too much.
You can kind of think of it this way: like, can your friend understand it if you went less detail? Then go with that. Like, why overshare when you don't need to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creating comparison traps, and talking to a friend of the opposite sex about your sex life.
I can hear some people going, well, what? Colin and Alana did the podcast by themselves for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, fair to say that. But that's why when Sam was like almost always in the room while we were recording episodes. I would say always, basically, right?
Yep.
And then
we were remote.
Yeah. And we weren't talking about specifically our own sex lives. Like, I wasn't like,
just gonna say
exactly.
Oh, Kyle, I just need to tell you about this thing that happened. Like, like it's different when you're talking about like a topic, like anyways, versus the specifics of your own sex life.
And I think too, I would say for that last one, like one-on-one. If it comes up in a group setting,
totally.
Like our community group will talk about sex, not often, but it'll come up, and it's like we'll all kind of contribute to the conversation. And I think that that's totally healthy, but it's like the one-on-one stuff, because that just leads nowhere good.
Yeah.
I'll also say one thing I'm just going to add here, like talking about something that your spouse doesn't want you talking about.
Yes.
I think this is a really hard line, and I'm really curious your guys' thoughts. Like, do you tell your spouse ahead of time that you're going to be telling a friend that, or do you tell your friend that first and then tell your husband after, like, hey, I brought this up with so-and-so today? Like, how do you navigate that?
Asked Jeff before, like, can I talk about this with X? Like, I would specify the person. So then, because the answer might be different for who it is. Right? Like, if it's this friend versus this friend, maybe that friend's a no and this friend's a, yeah, that's totally fine. And so
I'm guessing there's a lot of people who are having these conversations and their spouse has no idea they're having these conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, is that okay? Is that not okay? Is some stuff okay and other stuff not okay? Because what if you really want to talk to someone about something because you think they're going to have good advice, and your spouse, if you go to them, is like, no, I don't want you talking about that with anyone. Well, then
I think it depends, like, what it is. Like, in the sense that, like, is it something specifically about your spouse? Then I think you need to use a lot of discernment, versus if it's just something in general. Like, if it's me telling a friend, like, oh, yeah, I'm just going through, like, a dry spell right now or whatever, to me, that's really broad, and it's not specifically about Jeff. So then to me, that would be okay, because I'm asking for her thoughts or her advice or her whatever, her help, versus it's like, oh yeah, he did this thing that whatever. I mean, I think there's, maybe it's like, if there is something that you need to talk to someone about, you go find someone like a counselor or someone like a therapist to help you navigate that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I kind of feel like if you feel convicted of it, it's probably something you should talk to your spouse about first. If you don't, I don't see, I mean, like, say your husband is doing XYZ, not even a sexual thing, and you're having trouble with, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's just do a really poor one. Like, he's not unloading the dishwasher and it's just really frustrating you. You've talked with him about it and nothing is changing or something, and you wanted to talk to a friend about it, just to kind of be like, do you have any advice for me? I wouldn't go and ask my husband, hey, is it okay if I talk to my friend about this grievance? And so I'm like, why would that be different necessarily in the bedroom if you're not getting into like super details? But if it's something like, hey, my husband can't do XYZ, I'd love to hear what your husband does, or something like that, where you're like, yeah, maybe that would be a bit too personal. You're sharing like something really personal. So then that would probably be something to ask first. So I don't know. I feel like it's all dependent on what it is that you're talking about. But the biggest thing is if you feel convicted about it and be like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't be talking about this, without them knowing, or yeah, then ask first. That's kind of where I would go.
Go ahead. I'm looking. There's a, I saw a pastor talk about venting recently, and it was so good. I'm trying to find it. You guys move on. I'll keep looking for this, and
Okay.
I'll share it when I find it. It was really
Okay.
good.
So who should you talk to? If you're like, okay, but I want to talk about this with a friend. How do I decide what friend I want to talk to? So not every friend is necessarily a safe friend to have these conversations. I think we can all agree
Mhm.
that there's certain people in our lives
Totally.
that we can disclose things to, and certain people we just don't. So look for people who are spiritually mature, have the same values, they're grounded in God's word, people who walk in humility, and not judgment. And if you're not sure, pray about it.
Totally. Yeah.
Ask for discernment.
Yeah. And ask God to highlight the person you should be talking to about it. Yeah.
Even as a couple, like if it's like Kyle, you said you guys talk about it in a community group. Like that's awesome. That's great. Like if you have other couple friends that you can talk to just all together about stuff, awesome. If you're able to have these conversations together, perfect. Like I think that's perfect because then you can kind of chat together and with other people and everyone hears the feedback.
I remember the first time we hung out with that couple, sex came up the very first time hanging out, and I was like, I know these people are going to be good friends. Like, if we can talk about sex comfortably, the four of us, the first time we hang out, we're going to be great. And that was
Totally.
like 10 years ago now.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And yes, we're still friends. Just to be clear.
But red flags, kind of like I said earlier, would be like people who are prone to gossiping, overshares, and people who are dismissive of biblical truth.
Okay, I found it. It wasn't as good as I thought, but I'll share it anyways. I hate when this happens. The question was from a husband, and he said, when my wife talks about work, it sounds like gossip. Is it okay because we're one flesh? So this is actually good here to talk about, because does everything that you share with your spouse, is it assumed that the other spouse is going to hear it, right? Because one flesh. We'll talk about that in a second, I think. But the pastor's answer is, she can certainly talk about work with you, but it's a trap. Just listen, don't fix. Practice with me. That sounds really difficult. I'm so sorry. So kind of poking at the men of like always trying to fix the situation.
Yes, they do.
But then he says, in all seriousness, we think venting makes us feel better, but it actually makes us think worse. Thoughts take you places and words are powerful. Be careful what you say and how you think. I thought that was a good caution about venting. We often will vent, and maybe in the moment it'll feel better, but a lot of times I feel like we don't get the proper response we want, so we end up thinking worse. Like, oh, should I have shared that? Did I share that in the wrong way, or am I the weird one for doing that? I think a lot of time venting is masked as gossip.
Or you mean vice versa?
Gossip is gossip. Yeah, venting is gossip, but we call it venting so that we don't have to think that we're gossiping.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But what do you guys think about what I said earlier? If like when you share something with a girlfriend, do you explicitly say, "Hey, I don't want you to share this with your spouse," or do you just assume she's not going to? Or do you assume that she will tell her spouse because they talk about everything? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
Assume that she would tell her spouse.
That's how I feel as well.
I would assume, or like it would be free game for her to tell the spouse. I would, because I know that she knows me and knows me well. I know that she probably won't, but it's still free game, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are some like men's groups or women's group where there is like a confidentiality clause amongst the group that this stays in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a little bit different, but even still, like, this is highly debated amongst a lot of people that I'm close with, as to like, what are you free to share with your spouse? What are you not free to share with your spouse? Even if there is like a men's group, does that just stay amongst the men, or do we just assume that our wives are going to know some of the things that were said? Are some things okay or some things not okay? In my life, this is a lot trickier because different friends feel different ways, so I have to navigate everyone a little bit differently. But yeah, maybe it's a bigger deal just in my life and not elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure most of like, if I'm in Bible studies or women's groups or prayer time, it's all specified at the beginning that this is to be only for you, not for your spouse. Like, I feel like there are always going to be times where there are things not to be shared.
That's how it is in most of my life. It's either explicitly stated that this stays here, and if it's not, then it's kind of free reign. That's kind of the approach that we take amongst my friends groups now.
Yeah. That's how.
I feel like there's never really instances where people say that in my life. Like in a women's group, they say don't tell your spouse.
It's not worded so like you're not allowed to tell your husband. It's just like, hey, what stays in this room stays in this room.
Right, I guess. Okay.
Right. And that's I if I were sharing and I didn't want other people's spouses to know, to me, that's whoever is in this room gets to hear it and nobody outside this room gets to hear it,
Right.
which would include spouses. So it's not like it's trying to put a wedge between you and your husband and mentioning like, don't even tell your husband this. That's how big of a secret it is. But it's just, this is a safe, like in order for some people need that safety to be to actually share. Mm-hmm. And I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's more of like a freedom thing for the people in the group than it is a restrictive thing outside of the group.
Totally.
Like, it's
No,
exactly.
that makes sense. Yeah. No, cool. That's good. Okay. How to bring it up. I thought this would be helpful because maybe you're someone who doesn't ever have these conversations with friends, and you're trying to figure out how to do that well and how to actually bring it up in a conversation without seeming totally awkward and weird. So I've laid out some things that you could potentially say, using curiosity, but also vulnerability at the same time. So asking something like, have you guys ever been through a season like this? And then maybe sharing a little bit about what it is that you're navigating. We've been learning more about intimacy in our marriage. Would you be open to chatting about that sometime? Or, okay, random question. How do you guys stay connected, like physically, or you could even say like sexually during busy seasons, right? I feel like these are pretty.
You could even just say, hey, I've been listening to a podcast on Kingdom Sexuality.
Yep.
Yep. Or if you're looking for like resources, have you guys ever read a book or taken a course that's helped your sex life? We're looking for wisdom from couples we trust. Or like no pressure at all, but I've just kind of been wanting to have some more honest conversations around sex and marriage. If that's something you're open to, I'd love to talk.
These are great. I hadn't read this ahead of time at all, but like those are so good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like no one is going to feel offended or caught off guard that you're asking in any of those ways. And everyone gives them the opportunity to like say, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And that's not forcing it on them at all. Like those are great.
Because you might find some friends aren't comfortable at all talking anything about their sex life. Like even within our own community, we've had comments talking about, we shouldn't be talking about sex at all from any other person but your spouse. So there are definitely people out there who don't want to talk about their sex lives.
Yeah. And I've asked a friend a question before and she's like, you know what? Actually, I don't know if my husband would be comfortable with me sharing details about that. I was like, okay, great. Like that's totally fine. And it was good for me to hear that. Okay, cool. You've got like, but it was helpful for me, but it was like good for you for being honest and understanding what your husband's comfortable with.
Yeah. And protecting your marriage.
Yeah. And I didn't feel weird about it. And she didn't feel weird about it. It was like, okay, cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the key here is leading with humility, not necessarily expertise. So pairing curiosity with humility and letting your tone say, like, I'm not trying to gossip. I don't want to compare. I'm looking for connection. I'm looking for wisdom. I'm looking for growth or like community and people to come alongside me. And yes, making room for the boundaries because not everyone's going to be comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so some topics that are safe and maybe helpful to share is like how you've navigated a dry season or helpful resources that have blessed your intimacy and your sex life, wins in communication or connection, or rebuilding trust, or things you're learning. Like how do you stay connected after having a baby, or how to navigate stress, even though whatever, and in your marriage or your sex life. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the cautions and the boundaries. So not dishonoring your spouse, potentially asking permission before sharing if it's something you feel you would need to. don't share what's sacred or things that you're like, no, actually that's a for me thing. And I think it's
Too intimate.
you need those things. Yeah.
Do you guys have any examples? Like I can already picture someone listening being like, what would be too sacred? What would be offside to share?
Like specifics, like, oh yeah, we did this position and then we moved to this position and then he did this with his hands and then we moved, like, I feel like just the details. Those
Or something, or the details that actually mean something to your heart. Like, I don't know if it's like, I don't know, something during the act that always happens. Like, I don't know, he always touches the small of my back when we're done or something like that. That isn't necessarily a sexual act that's like, ooh, he does what? But just something that means so much to you that it feels extra special. And other people don't need to know what that extra special feels to you. Like it's almost stepping too into the vulnerable, not crazy details, but something that is extra special that is just for you and your husband. I think that's how I would define that.
Perfect. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different random things in your life that you don't share, like random details about your day. It's not like you're necessarily sharing them. So same with your sex life. I don't think there needs to be, you don't need to be like, oh, this is what we did. This is what turns me on. This, like there's just stuff you can just keep for you. And that's great. With the cautions and boundaries, being quick to shut down comparison or criticism. If that's kind of where the conversation is leading.
Yeah, well, me and my husband, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, time for a new topic.
And use discretion and discernment. What's appropriate in one's friendship or even one friend's group might not be with another. Like Kyle, you said you have conversations with this one couple about sex. Like maybe that's the couple that you have those conversations with and doesn't work with another couple, right? Like, I don't know. Everyone's different. So,
yeah.
And usually you'll figure out pretty quickly who's comfortable and who's not. Like within the first minute or like seconds of the topic being brought up, you will know very quickly if they're comfortable with it or not.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of benefits to having these conversations. And I hope you take that away from this episode, that it's very worthwhile. Even hearing testimonies of freedoms or healings or different things that have brought people together and encouraged them in their marriage or their sex life. It deepens friendships to be able to have those conversations that you don't necessarily have with everybody and every friend, but you have these certain couples or these mentors or these people in your life that you do feel safe and trust to have them with. And it's just encouraging, like you're not alone. Someone else can speak into whatever it is that you're navigating and be like, oh yes, I've been there, or we went through that season too, and this is what really helped. Just huge encouragement. So my challenge to you, listener, hey, thanks for sticking to the end.
Alana gives a challenge. Let's sit up and listen.
Well, is just to ask God, like you kind of said earlier, Tira, highlight a couple or a friend or someone that you can have a conversation with. If you're not having these conversations, I want to challenge you to think about it and have a conversation with someone. Let us know how it goes. Like, maybe this is something you've never done before and you're feeling unsure about it. Like, listen back, or I can make a post with some of those ways to bring it up with friends. Actually, I'll do that. So you can see them and have a practice if you want to, whatever it is for you. But talk to someone about it, and even talk to your spouse about it first, maybe, and see how they feel about it, and chat with a friend.
And maybe your spouse has a friend for you, like, hey, I think so-and-so would be really open to talking about this. Have you ever asked them?
Love it. Okay, I'll end in prayer. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you so much that we can have friends in our lives that are going to help build up our marriage and help point us to you. And if people listening don't have a friend like that, Lord, I ask that you would bring someone along who would just encourage and uplift and be who they need. Lord, we just thank you that we can go on this journey with other people and that you've put people in our lives on purpose to help us and to encourage us. And so we just thank you for that. What a gift it is. Amen.
Amen.
Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like our content, please like, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends too. Thanks so much for journeying with us today as we tackled the hard questions and dive deep into godly intimacy. Make sure you follow us on Instagram to see more of our content, and check the show notes for any links we might have mentioned in today's episode. We're so grateful to be on this journey with you, and we can't wait to see you in the next episode.